Have you ever met someone who seemed perfect, charming, warm, magnetic, only to realize later that their presence left you feeling drained instead of energized? What if the real danger in your life isn't the enemies you can see, but the friends who quietly chip away at your peace, your energy, and your identity? And here's the truth that most men learn too late. Not every smile is genuine, and not every hand you hold is meant to hold yours back. Let's cut through the noise. This video isn't about blame, and it's not about bitterness. It's about clarity. The kind of clarity you earn through experience, hard lessons, and maybe a few emotional scars. You see, the world is full of people who wear masks. Some light up the room the moment they walk in. Others, well, the light returns the moment they walk out. And the real challenge? Learning to tell the difference before it costs you years of your life and your peace of mind. If you've lived long enough, and I know you have, you already know. Life is too short to keep giving your energy, your kindness, and your attention to people who leave you confused, second-guessing yourself, or constantly wondering, what did I do wrong? Not every friendly face is a friend. Not every story deserves your sympathy, and not every relationship, especially the romantic ones, is worth saving. In today's video, we're going to uncover 6 unmistakable signs of what I call dangerous women. Now, I'm not talking about outer appearance. I'm talking about character. These are patterns of behavior that drain your spirit, cloud your judgment, and leave you emotionally bankrupt. And no, this isn't some bitter rant. It's wisdom, hard-earned wisdom. Because when you understand what to look for, you stop inviting chaos into your life, dressed as companionship. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." I'd add this, it also depends on the company you keep. So if you're ready to protect your energy, guard your peace, and choose clarity over confusion, stick with me. What I'm about to share could save you from months or even years of unnecessary pain. Let's begin. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever been with someone who, no matter what the situation was, somehow always managed to be the one who got hurt? No matter who the story involved, she was always the victim, never the cause, never the one who made mistakes, always the one picking up the emotional pieces left behind by the rest of the cruel, misunderstanding world. At first, it's disarming. It pulls you in. You sit across the table from her as she opens up about her awful ex, her toxic best friend, the family that always took her sister's side, the job where the boss just couldn't handle a strong woman, and you, being the kind and decent man you are, feel drawn in. You start to think, maybe she just needs someone who will finally treat her right. That's the hook, and it works more often than you'd think. This isn't a woman looking for healing. This is a woman seeking control. Not through force, but through emotional manipulation. And here's where the story gets real. I once knew a man named Tom. Tom was stable, successful, solid, the kind of guy who believed in second chances. After his divorce, he met a woman who seemed refreshingly open. She shared everything, from her past relationships to family drama and workplace struggles. He admired her honesty, he admired her strength. But months into the relationship, the pattern became clear. Every story followed the same script. She was betrayed, overlooked, wronged. And more importantly, it was always someone else's fault. That's when it hit Tom. He wasn't in a relationship. He was playing a role. He was either the hero she clung to for validation or the villain when he dared to challenge her narrative. If he questioned anything, if he encouraged her to take responsibility, even gently, he became the enemy. This is where things get dangerous, because you're not dealing with a woman who's reflecting on her past. You're dealing with someone who's rewriting it and pulling you into a script where your only lines are "I'm sorry" and "you're right." Now here's what most men miss. This pattern isn't about healing, it's about power. A perpetual victim can never be held accountable, because accountability would threaten her entire identity. And the closer you get, the more she'll cast you in the role of the next person who failed her. That's how it works. It's a slow erosion of your peace, your clarity, your sense of who you are. Stoic philosophy teaches that you can't control others, only your response. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But a woman trapped in victimhood refuses that power. She wants the world to carry the emotional load she won't carry herself. And if you're not careful, you'll end up carrying it for her. So what do? You stop playing the rescuer. You recognize the pattern. You acknowledge the emotion, but respond with reason. You keep your boundaries intact. Compassion is one thing. Codependency is another. A woman who's committed to her victim's story will always find a villain. Don't let that villain become you. And if her stories never change, if the blame is always external, if you're constantly cast in roles you never auditioned for, there's only one real answer. Step back, quietly, firmly, because sometimes the strongest move you can make isn't to fix someone, it's to free yourself. Gentlemen, life is too short to be written into someone else's script of endless pain. Choose clarity, choose peace, and above all, choose to be the author of your own story. Have you ever been in a relationship that felt more like a roller coaster than a partnership? One minute, everything's calm and smooth, and the next, you're blindsided by an argument you didn't see coming, didn't start, and can't seem to end. If that sounds familiar, you may have encountered what I call a drama addict. A woman who is so uncomfortable with peace that she'll light a match just to feel alive again. She doesn't just react to drama. She creates it, directs it, stars in it. And you're cast as a supporting actor in her emotional soap opera, whether you agreed to the role or not. These women don't thrive in stability. They suffocate in it. If the room gets too quiet, the relationship too balanced, they'll find something, anything, to stir up. Maybe it starts with a subtle jab, a harmless complaint, or sudden silence because you didn't text back fast enough. But it escalates fast. Before you know it, you're spending hours defending a perfectly innocent comment, apologizing for something you didn't even know was wrong, and questioning your own actions just to keep the peace. And here's the kicker. While you're left feeling drained and confused, she often seems more alive, more energized after every conflict. Why? Because drama is her fuel. Emotional chaos gives her a sense of control, of importance, of being seen. It turns every moment into a performance where her feelings take center stage and everyone else is forced to react. The problem isn't just the conflict itself, it's the constant emotional instability. You begin walking on eggshells, anticipating explosions, and adjusting your behavior to avoid setting off the next storm. It's exhausting, and slowly, your inner peace begins to erode. You lose your calm, your focus, your sense of self, all in the name of keeping her happy. But here's what the ancient Stoics knew, and it's more relevant now than ever. Seneca once said, "An angry man opens his mouth and shuts his eyes." That applies here. A woman addicted to drama doesn't want truth. She doesn't want resolution. What she craves is emotional stimulation and control. She feeds off the adrenaline rush of conflict, because without it, she feels invisible or unimportant. Now, you might think you're helping by trying to calm things down, by fixing every misunderstanding, by walking that emotional tightrope just to keep her steady. But in reality, you're just playing your part in the script she's already written. The more you engage, the more you get trapped in the cycle. And here's the harsh truth. You can't outlove, out-reason, or out-rationalize this, or out-patience someone who needs drama to feel alive. So what's the answer? Distance. Not always physical, at least not at first, but emotional distance. Don't play the game. Don't rise to the bait. Let the emotional waves crash around you without pulling you under. As the Stoic wisdom now Epictetus taught, you can't control others, only your response. And sometimes the wisest response is silence, space, stillness. You don't have to fix her storm. You just have to stop sailing in it. When someone builds their identity around chaos, they'll never make room for your peace. But you can choose to guard that peace. You can choose to be grounded, steady, and free. Remember this: your calm is your power. Your clarity is your compass. And your refusal to dance to someone else's emotional soundtrack? That is strength. Real strength. If you've been caught in this cycle, it's not too late to step off the stage. You don't have to be the actor in her drama anymore. You can choose a life where peace isn't punished. And calm isn't boring. It's a way of living with purpose. Have you ever made a perfectly reasonable decision, like needing a night to yourself, canceling plans for work, or just setting a boundary, only to feel a strange heaviness in your chest afterward? Not because you did something wrong, but because someone made you feel like you did? That, my friend, is the invisible weight of guilt. And while guilt can sometimes be a sign of conscience, in the wrong hands, it becomes a weapon. A subtle, silent weapon that doesn't leave bruises, but leaves you questioning your choices, your worth, and eventually your identity. Some women, often the ones who seem the most emotionally tuned in, know exactly how to use guilt as a tool of control. They don't yell. They don't demand. Instead, they sigh. They go silent. They drop subtle hints that you're somehow letting them down. They don't need to say the words, "You hurt me," because the way they look at you says it all. And suddenly, you're not living your life anymore. You're managing their reactions to it. It starts small. You skip dinner because a project deadline is closing in, and she gets quiet. You plan a weekend fishing trip with the guys, and she says, "I just thought we were spending more time together lately." You say no, and immediately feel like you've committed a crime. So what do? You start adjusting, rearranging, apologizing, not because you believe you're wrong, but because you're trying to avoid that gut-wrenching feeling that maybe, just maybe, you're a bad partner. Before long, you're not making decisions based on values or goals. You're reacting. You're trying to keep the peace. You've traded leadership for appeasement. And here's the dangerous part. It's often so subtle, you don't even notice the power shift happening. Guilt becomes the currency, and every time you pay it, by canceling your needs, your time, your voice, she gains more control. Let me be clear. This isn't sensitivity. This isn't emotional vulnerability. This is calculated emotional pressure dressed up as hurt feelings. It's designed to keep you on edge, to make sure you never feel totally sure of yourself. And the longer you stay in that cycle, the harder it becomes to even remember what you wanted in the first place. The Stoics had something powerful to say about this. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That hits different when you realize just how often we hand over that mastery without even realizing it. When guilt is guiding your actions, you're no longer free. You're imprisoned by someone else's expectations, spoken or unspoken. So how do you break free? You stop reacting and you start responding from a place of reason, not fear. You set boundaries, not out of rebellion, but out of self-respect. You give, not because you're afraid of her disappointment, but because you choose to. And when she leans into those guilt tactics, you hold your ground, calmly, kindly, but firmly. This isn't about being cold or uncaring. It's about being conscious. It's about knowing the difference between real connection and emotional manipulation. Because love shouldn't feel like a trap. Your choices shouldn't come from fear of punishment. And your life, your time, your energy should never be managed by guilt. A woman who truly values you will never weaponize your empathy against you. She won't punish your independence. She'll support it. And if she can't do that, then you need to ask yourself a hard but necessary question. Who are you really living for? Because peace doesn't come from constantly keeping someone else happy. It comes from aligning your actions with your principles. It comes from owning your time, your voice, and your freedom. And that's not selfish. That's what being a strong, grounded man is all about. Let me ask you something real. What happens when life hits you hard, when grief shows up uninvited? When your health fails you, when your career crumbles and you're no longer the strong one, the steady one, the guy who always has it together? Who's standing beside you then? Because here's the hard truth. Some women show up when things are going great, but quietly disappear when life stops being convenient. And one of the most damaging traits you can ever overlook in a partner is a lack of empathy. It doesn't always look cruel at first. Sometimes it's subtle. You tell her you're feeling overwhelmed after a brutal week, and she glances up from her phone, nods, then shifts the conversation back to her new yoga instructor. You try to open up about something vulnerable, your father's health, a project that failed, a deep fear you've been carrying. And instead of leaning in, she brushes it off like it's just small talk. You feel it, don't you? That cold distance, that invisible wall. It's not just that she doesn't understand. It's that she doesn't even want to. I once knew a man who'd lost his wife to cancer. After a year of grieving, he met someone new, beautiful, vibrant, outgoing. She seemed like a fresh start. But when the deeper waves of grief returned, when he just needed someone to sit with him in silence and not rush his healing, she couldn't do it. She got uncomfortable. She changed the subject. She offered shallow reassurances like, "Everything happens for a reason." And then she started pulling away, not because he was too broken, but because she couldn't handle the emotional weight of being present when things weren't light and easy. Here's what you have to understand. Empathy is not optional in a real relationship. It's not a bonus trait. It's the very foundation of emotional connection. Life isn't just highlight reels. It's loss, it's failure, it's fear. And when those moments come, and they will come, you need someone who's not just physically beside you, but emotionally With you. Someone who hears the tremble in your voice, even when your words sound strong. Someone who doesn't rush to fix you, but chooses to feel with you. Now listen carefully, because this is important. If you find yourself constantly justifying her coldness, telling yourself she's just not emotional, or maybe she didn't know what to say, stop. That's you making excuses for something you feel is missing. And your gut isn't lying. You deserve more than surface-level support. You deserve someone who doesn't vanish when life gets heavy. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." I'd add, waste no more time hoping someone will become what they clearly are not. Empathy isn't something you can teach. It's not something you can beg for. It's either there or it's not. And when it's missing, you'll feel lonelier sitting next to her than you ever did sitting alone. So what's the answer? Don't try to fix her. Don't stay hoping she'll suddenly transform into someone emotionally available. Instead, choose differently. Choose someone whose heart beats with yours when life gets quiet, when pain gets loud, and when you have nothing to offer but your vulnerable, unguarded self. That kind of love isn't weak. It's the only kind that lasts, because life is too short to walk through storms with someone who holds an umbrella only when the skies are blue. Have you ever felt like you were in a relationship where you were constantly auditioning, like no matter what you did, it was never enough? Not because you weren't a good man, not because you didn't try, but because what mattered to her had nothing to do with who you were and everything to do with what you had. If so, you've likely experienced the exhausting pull of someone obsessed with superficial things. And make no mistake, this isn't about wanting a few nice things or having standards. This is about a mindset. A worldview where value is measured by the size of the house, the price of the handbag, the number of likes on a post, or the brand on your shirt. It sounds harmless at first. What's wrong with wanting nice things, right? But pay attention, because it's not about the things. It's about what they represent to her. Status, approval, superiority. And in that world, love isn't a bond between two people. It's a transaction, a scorecard. And you're either adding to her image or you're dragging it down. The problem is, once you're in this dynamic, you'll feel like you're on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. You get a raise, she wants a bigger car. You take her to a great restaurant, she hints about private dining. You post a photo together, she asks why it didn't get enough engagement. You're constantly trying to keep up with a lifestyle that's not about living. It's about being seen. But here's what the Stoics understood thousands of years ago, and what most people still get wrong today. Wealth isn't about accumulation. It's about contentment. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Let that sink in. Because when you're with a woman who's never satisfied, who compares your life to the next influencer or power couple she sees on social media, you're not building a future. You're fueling a hunger that will never be full. And here's what it does to you over time. It drains your energy, it clouds your judgment, and worst of all, it distracts you from what truly matters: your peace, your principles, your purpose. I've seen good men lose themselves in that chase. I've seen them sacrifice their time, their values, even their identity, just to meet an ever-rising bar that was never about love in the first place. It was about optics, about show. And let me tell you, when you live your life to impress someone else's standards of success, you're not living. You're performing. So what's the way out? you walk away from the shallow, not out of resentment, but out of wisdom. You stop trying to meet expectations built on image, and you start building a life rooted in substance. You choose someone who values how you think, how you live, how you treat others, not just what you can display on a timeline. Because true partnership isn't found in flashy gifts or red carpet dates. It's found in shared values, quiet moments, loyalty and peace, real peace. And here's the bottom line. A woman who can't see past appearances will never recognize your character. You could have the heart of a lion, the mind of a philosopher, and the soul of a warrior. But if your shoes aren't the right brand, or your car doesn't sparkle on Instagram, none of it will matter to her. And that's not a reflection of your worth. That's a reflection of her depth. So if you're in that situation now, hear this. You're not selfish for wanting more. You're not weak for walking away. You're wise. You're choosing to guard what's sacred, your inner calm, your integrity, your freedom. And no luxury in the world is worth trading those things away. Have you ever been in an argument where the more facts you shared, the more twisted the conversation became? Where the harder you tried to calmly explain your side, the more you found yourself being accused, deflected, or emotionally manipulated? If you've lived through this, then you already know what it's like to deal with someone who simply cannot admit they're wrong. And in a romantic relationship, this trait is not just frustrating, it's a slow erosion of trust, connection, and peace. Let's be clear, no one enjoys being wrong. It stings, it challenges our ego. But healthy people, wise people, can recognize it, own it, and grow from it. A woman who refuses to ever admit fault, however, operates from a place of emotional immaturity. She sees being wrong not as a moment to learn, but as a threat to her identity. So she'll do whatever it takes to avoid it. Twist the narrative, make it about your tone, accuse you of being too harsh, or turn the spotlight onto how she feels instead of what actually happened. You bring up a missed promise, she turns it into why you always criticize her. You point out something hurtful she said, she says you're attacking her character. Before long, the original issue gets buried under a mountain of emotional misdirection, and you're left apologizing for trying to resolve something that was never allowed to be resolved. And here's the real danger. Over time, you start questioning yourself. You think, maybe I am being too sensitive, or maybe it's one person constantly walking on eggshells, while the other builds a wall of pride around their ego. Now think about this from a Stoic lens. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake, or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after." That's real strength, real wisdom. Because owning your mistakes doesn't make you weak, it makes you trustworthy. But here's the thing. Someone who refuses to admit they're wrong can never build real intimacy. Why? Because intimacy requires vulnerability. It requires the ability to say, "I was wrong, I hurt you," or "I didn't see that clearly." Without that, the relationship becomes a battlefield where one person must always lose in order for the other to feel secure. If that's the relationship you're in, you need to ask yourself, are you with someone who wants to be right or someone who wants to be real? There's a big difference. And choosing a woman who can acknowledge her flaws, take feedback, and grow, that's not settling. That's building something that can actually last. So what's the solution if you find yourself with someone like this? Don't try to force her to change. That will only deepen the resistance. Instead, shift your focus. Live your values. Speak your truth calmly. And most importantly, choose someone who sees truth not as a threat, but as a path. Because a partner who can't admit she's wrong will never fully understand you, never fully hear you, and never truly walk beside you. Life is too short to spend your energy keeping score. Choose humility, choose growth, and choose someone who can say those three powerful words: I was wrong. Not out of weakness, but out of strength, love, and a commitment to truth. Time. It's the one resource you can never get back. You can earn more money, you can rebuild your health, but once time is gone, it's gone for good. And yet so many of us don't treat it with the respect it deserves, especially when it comes to relationships. Here's a truth most men learn the hard way. A woman who doesn't value your time is telling you everything you need to know about how she values you. And if you ignore it, it won't just waste your weekends, it will waste your life. Now, we've all been with someone who's occasionally late or forgets a plan. That happens. But what I'm talking about is a pattern. A woman who's always running late, who cancels last minute, who says, "Let's meet at 7, and shows up at 7:45 without apology. Or worse, someone who doesn't even show up at all. The kind of woman who never seems to prioritize your schedule, your commitments, or your energy. Over time, this becomes more than just an inconvenience. It becomes a message. Your time is not important, and neither are you. Let me tell you about a man I once worked with, Richard. He was a successful contractor in his 50s, sharp guy, had built his business from nothing. When it came to work, he was disciplined and respected. But in his personal life, that's where things fell apart. He started dating a woman who seemed like the full package, beautiful, charismatic, always made him feel like the center of her world. But the red flags came early. She'd show up late for dinner, cancel weekend plans because something came up. And Richard, being patient, let it slide. He figured, hey, life happens. But weeks turned into months. He started changing his work schedule to fit hers, waiting alone in restaurants, turning down time with old friends. And the worst part? She didn't even notice the cost. I remember sitting with him one afternoon, after she'd blown him off again. He just looked at his phone and said, "Man, I feel like I'm always waiting." And that's what it does to you. Slowly, silently, it eats away at your time, your dignity, your peace. The Stoic wisdom now said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And when you're with someone who doesn't respect your time, you're not just wasting minutes, you're wasting moments of your life that could have been spent building, growing, living. A woman who truly sees you, who values you, will value your time. She will show up, she will plan, she will prioritize. Because when someone respects you, they honor your time like it's sacred. So what's the solution? You stop making excuses for disrespect. You stop calling it just the way she is. And you start treating your time like the precious one-of-a-kind gift that it is. You don't need ultimatums. You don't need drama. Just clarity. The kind that says, if you can't be on time, you can't be in my life. And here's the thing. When you start valuing your own time, other people will either rise to meet that standard or fall away. And either outcome is a win. Because life's too short to sit around waiting for someone who doesn't even realize you're worth being on time for. Choose peace. Choose respect. Choose to spend your time where it's valued, not where it's tolerated. Here's the truth no one teaches us growing up. Peace is a choice. and so is chaos. If a woman in your life carries even just a few of the signs we've talked about, emotional manipulation, constant drama, lack of empathy, or disrespect for your time, it's not your job to fix her. It's your responsibility to protect you. You don't walk away out of anger. You walk away out of wisdom. Because a man who values his time, his energy, and his emotional well-being doesn't stay where those things are constantly drained. He moves toward what nourishes him, not what exhausts him. The right partner won't be perfect, but she'll be present. She'll know how to listen without defensiveness. She'll say I was wrong without hesitation. She'll bring calm, not confusion. She'll stand beside you when life breaks you, not just when you're shining. And if you haven't found that yet, that's okay. What matters most isn't whether she's right for you. It's whether you're choosing from a place of clarity, not fear. Happiness doesn't come from finding someone to complete you. It comes from choosing every single day to protect your standards, your growth, and your inner peace. That's where real power lives. And you, my friend, deserve nothing less.